wait a minute, let me get this straight. So I got to write down all the stuff that's wrong with me, all my character defects, all the problems in my life, write them down, get them on my notebook. Then I need to get saved or find God? Is that the only way to get sober? Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about step number 7. So, buckle up. It's going to be an interesting conversation. Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing real good. It's a beautiful day. It's going to be, just kind of a slightly warm day, about 104 today. But I don't have the humidity that you have there in Florida there, Marcus, so shouldn't be too bad.
But you can you could probably cook an egg on the top of your car, though, you know.
That's for sure. I left my bicycle in the back of my black truck with the black cover over the back there the day before yesterday, and I heard this boom. The tire blew because of the heat. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about step 7. And step 7, it's actually only like one paragraph in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm sure Ben knows that. He's got his book right in front of him, like he said. And it doesn't say a lot in there. And there's some classic takes. I have a slightly different take, maybe not different, but maybe I'll just tell you what my own perspective on step 7 is. Mm-hmm. But let me go over some of the classic takes of step 7. And first of all, what is step 7? It's humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. And what kind of the classic takes are is give up your self-reliance or start to rely on a higher power, or whatever it means to you. And then you learn to practice humility and put character building ahead of your comfort. And accept that humility is necessary to achieve a sober and fulfilled life. And it's also another classic take might be changing your perspective from like the self-centered one to more of a humble and selfless look on life. And that's kind of some of the classic takes on it. And for me, this can be a very important step for people, and for me, definitely. And I'm going to talk about some of these things. I got some notes here, and I'm just trying to get them over here so I can see them, and don't know what I have. There we go.
Yeah, and, I think this is a really interesting topic because, I always thought, okay, yeah, we need to, go figure out this stuff and then, find God or whatever it is. And it was really difficult for me. I never really got to these steps, with a sponsor or anything like that. I just kind of watched them on my own and kind of looked at what it was. But I did notice that one of the things that helped me get and stay sober wasn't so much humility as in the church talks about, humble yourself, God is great, stuff like that. It was more like realizing that I didn't have all the answers and realizing that even the great me can have character flaws, and that if someone was to point them out, I don't need to get all kerfuffled and I don't need to get all excited. I can look at them and say, yeah, of course I could have problems. I know one of the problems, which a lot of you guys probably notice here on the channel, is I talk a lot more than I listen. And before, people would say that and they're like, dude, and I'd say, what do you mean? You're wrong. Now I'm like, okay, I'm trying to work on it. It's a work in progress. I know it's a character flaw, and I know it is a thing to deal with. Now, do I need to get on my knees and ask God to take that away humbly? Well, that's kind of a matter of what you decide works for you. For me, it was acknowledging it and realizing I'm not God. And realizing, hey, you know what? The world goes, and it's not a big deal. If I have a character flaw, I work on it and stuff like that. So I think that's interesting, and I think Terry's notes will really help us kind of have a dialogue about this.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's a great take on it. That we definitely don't have all the answers, and that we do have defects of character and shortcomings in our personalities and in our life, and it affects us. And a lot of those things we just can't change. It's who we are. We spent our whole life developing these things, and now we're suddenly supposed to get rid of them. Maybe I don't know if that's even possible. I don't think it is. But like I said, step 7 in the big book is really short. It's just one paragraph. But for me, it really does kind of have a deep meaning. I mean, the biggest meaning for me for step 7, and Marcus was alluding to this, was change. So just going back a couple steps to remind people, in steps 4 and 5, we kind of learned about our shortcomings there. You know, the people that we don't like in life, and then our part in it, and things like that. In step 6, we try to become sort of psychologically prepared to deal with these things, and we kind of try to learn about ourselves, you know. And in step 7, we start to work on strengthening our assets. So that's one thing. And then changing our shortcomings and, you know, just trying to limit them. It's just something we start to do. So basically, we start to work on changing our perspective and how we're going to act going through life and how we're going to affect other people. So to start, step 7, it talks about humility. So we need to accept some humility in our life. And I'm not talking humiliation, just talking about humility. We need to accept that, like Marcus said, we don't have all the answers, that we've made mistakes in the past, we're going to make mistakes in the future, but we're willing and we're going to work on changing these negative behaviors and try to humbly embrace our more positive attributes. We all have these positive attributes, you know, and but not trying to push them on other people, but trying to use them in a helpful way. And basically, we're just trying to find, you know, for me, I'm trying to find an honest way of living in this real world without drinking and causing damage, you know. When I'm hurting people, it's stressing me out, and that may drive me to a drink. So we have to work on removing these shortcomings. And for those that aren't quite understanding what a shortcoming is, it's just kind of sort of my definition would be it's a feeling, like a feeling or an action that harms ourselves or maybe other people. And it might be something like anger or jealousy or fear, or Marcus talked about he talks too much, allowing others to take advantage of you, manipulation, maybe even procrastination. I mean, you guys kind of get the idea. It's just sort of these negative behaviors, and it's a lot of work to change these behaviors. And so we're definitely not going to change them overnight. But the key here, for me at least, it's to be aware of these behaviors and learn to think and act differently when the situations come up. And that's the hardest part of the work, is not acting out in that negative way. Like, let's say, I'll give kind of an example, like if a loved one that the loved one I'm living with isn't doing something like the housework, or maybe not doing the housework the way I want it to be done. And that might frustrate me. It may make me angry. And I want it done a certain way. I mean, it's not happening that way, and it's just not being done that way. And my tendency would be to lash out, but that's not going to help anything. It's going to hurt the other person. It's going to hurt myself. I mean, nothing good is going to come out of it. I might feel good for a minute because, you know, I'll boost my ego. I'm right. You're wrong, you know, but so I might win the argument, but it's going to hurt both of us in the long run. So my shortcoming here would be the anger, the quick to anger, and also the control. You know, I want to be in control. And, you know, in sobriety, I don't want to be angry. It doesn't do anything for me. It hurts me. But I do want control. You know, I mean, that's something I still want. It's just inherent in me. I like control. But what I can do is, in sobriety, I can control my own actions. And I need to understand I can't control the other people. I mean, they're their own person. I'm not going to be able to control them. If I try to, it's just going to frustrate me. So I have to change some things. And this is where step 7 can come in. I need to understand that anger, it's not going to help anyone. So I gotta let it go. Sometimes we've talked about this in the past, you know, pausing, you know, stepping away from the situation until I calm down so I don't lash out. You know, I've never been a good arguer, and, you know, getting in the argument, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
And then I can do one of two things. I can have a conversation with that person about what is upsetting me, and maybe we can come to an understanding, you know, as to how I'd like it done, but really that's just boosting my ego. So really the better way is for me to keep me from staying angry is letting it go and just trying, just figure out a way to let it go. And that's the best way for me is just to let it go, unless it's really affecting me, you know. But doing this stuff, it's going to help me understand how to deal with like more serious situations when I'm going through life. That might anger me and get me into a very dangerous situation, a fight, or something like that. And it also, it's being, talking with the loved one in a calm way. It's going to help our relationship in a positive way. So that's kind of some of the things right there. Now, for me, the most difficult thing in step 7 in changing the way I think and act and working on step 7, a lot of that work is just learning to shut up. And that's really what a lot of it is. I mean, my mother passed away, but I'll just use this as an example where she complained that, I wasn't visiting her often enough. In my previous way, when I was drinking, my way of thinking, I would have come up with excuses and, I'd probably been super defensive, and that's the way I was. I was defensive, and that's how I'd answer, and that wouldn't help anything. Or like my spouse would, like, she'd say something that offended me or, I took offense to. And naturally I'd snap back and we'd get into a big argument, and, none of these reactions, they're just not going to help me. They're not going to help the other person. And, eventually they might actually lead me to a drink because I want to escape these feelings. So sometimes I just got to shut up until I can, like I said before, step back and respond in a positive way. That's what helps me a lot. Now, like we said, we're never going to be able to get rid of all of our shortcomings, no matter how hard we try. I mean, some of us have short tempers, some are loners, others are social butterflies, and some of us just like to fight. Others, it's just part of being human. That's, we have these character defects or just these character traits. I shouldn't even say that they're necessarily defects. They're traits. But we can get better, and we can do things better. And as long, when we're trying to work on these shortcomings, trying to limit them from affecting our lives, in a bad way. Mm-hmm. So removing these shortcomings, it can be difficult. But, it has huge rewards. It's going to give you freedom. It's going to give you freedom of choice. Like, let's say one of your reactions was maybe the anger. And, back, if I wasn't an angry person, but I know people that have that's kind of their trait. And, their only answer back when they were drinking was to fight. They get angry, they get in a fight. That's their only choice. If you can develop the skill to, control this anger, then maybe you have more choices. You don't have to fight. Sometimes we got to stand up for ourselves, I guess, but there's other ways to get around it. You can take this negative, harmful situation and turn it into a positive one.
Yeah.
But one more important thing to note here, though, is removing these shortcomings. It doesn't mean we roll over. Anytime someone confronts us or we get into that difficult situation. We still stand up for ourselves, but we don't have to do it in like this escalating negative way where it's going to hurt us and hurt them. We gotta be. I've said these words before a lot, but it's true. If we're honest and we're willing, we're open-minded, and we live with integrity, we're going to do well in this. We're going to be able to change. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to be able to change. And now changing this perspective and, our actions in life on people around us, this is a lot of what our program's about. We're not just going to help you stay sober. What we try to do here is we try to help you find this better way to live and developing this new, healthier perspective. And that's a lot of what step 7 to me means. And I'm sure many of you have some slightly different perspectives on step 7, and that's great, and I'd love to hear them, definitely. But what I'm trying to do is just develop this life that I don't have to run to the bottle for, And step 7 is kind of a big step in that direction.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is I get a lot of my ideas and things that help me get and stay sober from Stoic philosophy, which is actually where the Serenity Prayer came from. And Stoic philosophy oftentimes gets a bad rap that people don't feel anything. Like, oh, he's a Stoic. He's like a rock. He doesn't feel anything. He's not emotional. When actuality, it's actually living from a place of I don't know and humility of I don't know. It's not humility like, oh, hey, everyone's better than me. I'm a lowly, humble butterfly or whatever, right? It's more like, well, I can't control all that.
Yeah.
Like I used to think that, oh, I'm going to, talk to people about politics, or I'm going to talk to people about my ideas and my thoughts because I'm so important and my thoughts are what matters and I'm right and you're wrong. And what I learned is, well, I mean, you could be right all you want and you can find lots of things to be right about, but is it actually giving you a good quality of life? Does
Right.
it matter if I was right about politics? I mean, half of people are right. Right? One guy says the guy's bad, another says the guy's good. Half of y'all are going to be right. Half of you are going to be wrong. Right? And what we do is we get a little ego boost from being right, which does it really matter? In the long, grand scheme of things, does it matter? And with our character defects or the things that we don't like about our character or other people don't like about our character, we have to look at it and say, well, we're all kind of flawed. We're all a work in progress. And I'm going to work off of what I know and what I don't know. And I'm going to take a back seat. I'm not going to let emotions take the front seat. That's how I used to live. And that's what Stoicism taught me was, hey, take a back seat. Like, if Terry comes at you and he's like, hey, dude, I think you're a jerk or whatever, I don't need to get all excited before I actually hear him out. Maybe he's joking. Maybe I'm ready to fight and he's just telling a joke. Or maybe this or maybe that. And we don't understand. And one of the things that I have to look at is everyone is entitled to their opinion. Terry is completely entitled to think I'm not a nice guy or I am a nice guy or whatever. He's completely entitled to it. People out there, they're entitled to their opinions. It might be wrong, might be right, who knows? And one of the things that I learned in rehab, which Terry, I don't know if you remember this, but they had us sit in a circle, a big circle, and we all had a sheet of paper with our name at the top. And we had a bunch of lines for all the people in the rehab to say what they thought about us. And some people would say, I think Marcus is a swell fella. And some people would be like, I think he's a pompous ass. And our job was to go through and read all the opinions out loud of what people thought of us without taking offense. Because if you can listen to the opinions of others without taking offense, then you start to think differently. And you start to look differently. And Bob says age humbles everybody. Well, I think you hang out with a lot of nice older people, right? It doesn't always. Sometimes it makes it worse. And that's one of the things we have to look at also is generalizing. All these people bad, me good. All these people wrong, me right. And we have to look at it and say the world's a big place. And even on the worst black and white TV, you do get gray. And when you realize that there are gray areas in the world, there's room for me to be right and you to be right. There's room for me to have my opinion and you to have your opinion. And there's room for my character defects and your character defects. There's room for my way of being and your way of being. And when I start to listen to the opinions of others without taking offense, then I can start to grow and learn. Then I can start to change my path and change my direction and learn.
Yeah, definitely. That's looking at my character defects and trying to work on them. It's not easy. I still have them, and sometimes they're just as strong as they were before. But I think a big thing with step 7 and just recognizing and just going through life sober is being able to recognize my reactions, sometimes it's really difficult to notice the character defects. So I really have to notice them when I'm in a situation that might be turning negative, or at least I'm perceiving it as a negative situation, and I'm going to suddenly start to react. And that first reaction is usually going to be my old way of thinking. Doesn't happen as often now because I have a better way of thinking now. But that first reaction, I may have that tendency to snap back and turn that negative situation even worse. And so that's something that I have to really be aware of all the time. And whoever that person was that said, "What? You're a something fella, a swell fella." What is he? 150 years old? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I digress.
That's like the old grandpa joke. Hey, you're a real fart smeller. I mean, smart feller. Did you? The
Never
jokes
heard
are
that
free.
one either. Okay, well, we're having fun here, yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing because, I always go back to one of the things that Buddha said, which was the root of all suffering is desire. And it's so important when you look at that because in life, and especially in recovery, there are cliches. You go to a meeting and you're like, you see, oh, let go and let God, and easy does it. And you're like, sometimes I just want to smack some people around and be like, yeah, life ain't that simple. But, sometimes we look at a saying and we're like, okay, the root of suffering is desire. What does that mean? Well, that means you're suffering because you desire something to be other than it is. Okay, and really this is a simplified way of looking at life. I am unhappy because I wish something else would happen in my life, rather than looking at the contentment that is right now. Right now I have enough to eat, pretty comfortable, got my air conditioner that's too loud and whatever. But if I desire that air conditioner to be less loud, I'm going to start to suffer because I want something else. Oh, now I got to do this. Now I got to go to the Home Depot. Now I got to rewire the office. Now I got to do this, that. And it starts to set you on a path of different things. And when you look at it and say, well, maybe I have these character defects, and I desire them to be good. I desire to be this certain way. Therefore, I'm now suffering. Other than, hey, wait a minute, these are character defects. Let's just work on them one step at a time. Just like when you get sober. I don't need to commit to being sober the rest of my life today. I don't know what the rest of my life holds. I have no idea. But I can commit to today, or a month, or 6 months, or a year. Let's commit to it to a year. Let's see what happens after a year. Does that mean I'm sitting there waiting for a year to go get hammered on the 366th day? Not at all. It means I'm going to see something through. It means I'm going to take a step. It means I'm going to take life smaller. Someone said, I'd be happy if I won the lottery. I think the lottery's at like $1 billion, and they go play the lottery, and they get mad when they don't win. It's like, well, literally, it's a 1 in 300 million chance. So, like, get in line because 1 billion other people didn't win, which is why it's at $1 billion, right? They didn't win. And sometimes we look at this and we're like, money will solve my problems. The right relationship will solve my problems. If I move, that'll solve my problem. No. The root of suffering is desire. The first thing you need to do is be content with where you are right now and accept, this is me, warts and all. Character defects, good things, bad things. This is me, this is where I'm at. I'm X years old, and this is where life has brought me, and now I'm going to get sober, and I'm going to face the facts of where I'm at. Okay? And I'm also going to face the facts that if I grew up like Terry, I'd have the same character defects as Terry. These are adaptive coping mechanisms. I talk too much because I was never heard. You go to Christmas at my family, it's so loud, it's ridiculous. In order to be heard, you got to talk. You got to know what you're talking about, too. And so we have to understand that, and we have to say, hey, wait, what are we going to do here? How are we going to grow forward? How are we going to accept where we're at? Because where we're at was a coping mechanism and a way of adapting and living in the world. Okay, does that mean it's okay? Well, no. Sometimes you did some things that are against the law or bad. You got to face up to them. But most of us are just in the regular old, I was kind of a jerk and I drank too much and I neglected my family or whatever it is. Okay, not that those things aren't big, but, obviously legal stuff needs to be handled legally and family stuff needs to be handled family. And we have to look at that and say, what is it we are going to do to move forward and accept now this is where we're at and this is what we have to work with.
Definitely. Acceptance is huge. And, when I was drinking, I hemorrhaged money. I spent so much money on things that I thought would make me happy, and they never did. Getting sober was what it eventually, getting sober, learning a new way of life, learning to accept what I have right now, learning to live in this moment, and learning how to react and respond to other people. That's what's made me happy. That's what's allowed me to have serenity in my life. That's definitely been it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I wanted to hit this one real quick. It was one of the earlier comments. DMC, if you're still here, I just wanted to answer you. You said, I'm still sober here 2.7 years, never did AA meetings as COVID closed down things, where I am, of course. It is a good thing to go. Is it a good thing to go to AA for support to meet ex-drinkers? And for me, just doing whatever you can to get sober is what I did. And that's what I still do. I do many different things for sobriety, and it's not like it's an all-day, everyday thing, but I do things for sobriety every day. And I don't know, try it. You don't like it, don't have to go. It's really easy. You just go to a meeting and check it out. And I would give it a few meetings. Don't just go to one, but give it a few. Or go to your hospital. I'm sure your hospital has a group session. Mine always, all the hospitals that I have gone to have had the group things. But try those things. Try them all. That's what I would do personally. If you're frustrated in life right now, or things don't seem to be going the right way, maybe, or whatever, try it. It's okay.
Absolutely. All right. Any other?
I'm going through them now.
Yeah. Ben says, is it really important to forgive yourself and not be... Did we take this one?
No, we haven't taken any yet.
Okay. And not beat yourself up. Forgive yourself. Remind yourself of good times. I used to engage in catastrophic thinking and didn't realize it. Be kind to yourself. Yes, catastrophic thinking it's detrimental. But once you realize that is your thought pattern, then you can start to change it, because now I'm like, okay, that has no power. It's just a pattern. No power, pattern. Move through.
Yep. Grim says, one thing I've learned is if world seems to overwhelm, I just stop and go outside. Watch the birds, the trees, and nature. Nature doesn't get affected by how I feel about someone, or vice versa. It humbles me. Yeah, I hear you, Grim. I agree with you. I go walk the dog every morning down at the river, and it's wonderful. And that gives me a new perspective on the day every single day. Puts me in the right mindset for the rest of the day.
Cool.
And yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot others. If you guys want to support what we're doing here on the channel, check out TalkSober.com. You can go to TalkSober.com, click on all the links, join the program, check out our Facebook group, get some resources to help you learn what we've learned about getting sober and staying sober. And a lot of good stuff there.
Right, and it's good to see all you regulars here and a couple new people. Awesome. Welcome. Bob says life is suffering. Bob Bulgy. No, I don't know about that. There's suffering in life, absolutely. I mean, life happens. It happens, and we're here, and we need to deal with things on a daily basis. But I don't feel that I've had constant suffering. That's not how I would define my life. Even when I was in the depths of alcoholism, I don't think I was in that life was defined as suffering for me. There was points where it was existing, definitely.
I would say for me, in my drinking, towards the tail end, life was pretty much suffering.
Yeah.
And it was suffering of my own making.
Right.
That's the difficult part, is to realize that one of my coping mechanisms turned on me the way that I thought, and now I'm in this world of suffering that is self-created, and I can't get out of it. And that's why I needed help, because there was no way for me to get out of it, because I couldn't see out of it. I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see that drinking was throwing my brain into these thought loops that was constant suffering and sorrow that didn't exist. When I got out of my drinking, I was like, wait a minute, I don't really think all this stuff about all these things. So it was suffering that was caused by drinking. And I think that a lot of the stuff that we look at here, since we've been going through the steps, a lot of it is focusing on ourself and our character and who we are. And I think that we constantly need to revisit the fact that you can have all the character defects, you can have all the stuff, you can find God, you can have everything. But if you're continuing to drink, all bets are off and you're fueling the fire that made you seek help in the first place.
Sure.
And chemical dependency is in and of itself the problem. It's not one of the problems. It's not I drink less if my spouse liked me more. I drink less if I want... No. You'd drink less if you weren't chemically dependent, but now you're chemically dependent, so you need to stop drinking altogether, because chemical dependency begets chemical dependency. And I think it's important to look at, this has nothing to do with the steps. If you're drunk and you go through the steps, you're going to be a drunk, chemical dependent person trying to work on self-development in an alcohol-induced state, which does not work.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work. It will never work. It's like trying to take a bath in the mud to get mud off of you. It's not going to work. You just go back, oh, God damn, all this mud. It keeps more mud. You give me more mud, it'll go away. No, it won't. It's mud. That's what it is. Chemical dependency. You need to look at it, and the chemical altered my way of thinking. It pushed it towards suffering. It pushed it towards difficult stuff. And it altered it, and I couldn't get out because I was like the guy in the mud trying to get clean with mud shampoo. Ain't gonna work. It is not going to work, because chemical dependency is about being dependent on a chemical, and your mind has changed because of the chemical, and you can't get out of it until you completely get out of it. That's why the big book says half measures availed us nothing. If you try to get half sober, you're still half drunk. Doesn't matter. If I drink on the weekends, if I do this, if I did... No. Drinking needs to be off the table. You don't believe me? Get sober, go to a doctor, get help, stay sober for a year, watch what happens to your life. Watch. It's like magic. Your thinking gets better. You might not get everything you always wanted, but, when did drinking ever give that to you anyway? It didn't. Drinking never, made great people come praise me and put me on their back and say, he's a jolly good fellow. It never happened. It didn't. I didn't care. I could drink the most expensive crap in the world. That never happened. You want people to say you're a jolly good fellow? Go be a jolly good fellow. Pretty simple. Doesn't have to do with drinking. And when you start to realize that even if my life remained the same and I just took alcohol out, I'm 100 times better off. 1,000 times. The first year I got sober, the first 2 years, were some of the most difficult years in my life. My business was tanked. I sold my house that I loved. I loved that house. And I was humbled. And I had to admit I was an alcoholic. Like, my life didn't get better, but my thought process did. And that's where we really live.
Yeah. And were you happier after, during that time?
Somewhat. I was content. I wasn't happy.
Right.
I found joy in little things.
Right.
And I was able to say, hey, you know what? I can be more happy here in this little house that's temporary, or maybe not. I don't know. I didn't know what the future was going to bring. But I'm going to make the most of what I have here. And no matter what, I'm not going to drink, and I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say, this is the life I choose right now. Because none of us are victims. You're not a victim of alcohol, right? You chose to drink. You're not a victim. So what you do is you stand up and you say, I'm choosing this life. So if you're choosing to get drunk and stay drunk, that's your choice. If you choose to stay in a bad marriage, choose to stay in a bad job, that's your choice. You weigh the good and the bad, and you say, well, I'd rather have the good. This job pays me $150,000 a year, but I'm miserable. I'd rather do that than go get a job for $50,000 a year and be happy. All right, that's your choice.
Yeah.
That is your choice. And when you start to look at that, and you start to be like, everything I have right now is a result of my choices. You could choose to go to the bar tonight or not. You could do it. Now, you might be chemically dependent. You're fighting a big dragon on your back. But when I look back and I say, hey, you know what? I'm choosing not to. Dragon starts to go away. Starts to not care. Pick up again. He's going to come right back and be like, hey, how you doing? Remember me? I'm your old dragon buddy from the bar that makes you want to drink. And you start to realize it. Quitting cigars. You know, when I quit smoking cigars, sometimes I want one. But I don't, because I know I never want one. Because I get one, and then I'm going to have to go get a box just in case I want another one. Got to have a box just in case. They're cheaper by the box. Why wouldn't you buy? You'd be stupid to buy them $9 a piece. You get a box for $140. You'd be silly to buy. So I'll just get a box. And then the box is gone in a week, and pretty soon I'm like, why am I smoking again? Because I picked one up. Why am I at the bar again every night? Because I went one night. Choices. I choose character defects, no character defects. I choose to not drink.
Super good point. Yeah, I have to be responsible for my own sobriety, and I have to make that choice. Now, when you're first trying to stop drinking and you're in the depths of that alcoholism, like for me, you know, that choice was not easy. Many people will say they didn't have a choice. I did have a choice at the end, but that choice wasn't that I'm just going to stop drinking. That was that I'm going to go get help to stop drinking. Because I knew I couldn't do it on my own, but that's still a choice that I was able to make. Even in the depths of my alcoholism, it's a difficult thing. So I wasn't able to take a ton of responsibility for my drinking at that point, because that, you know, those cravings were so hard. They were so difficult. They were so strong. That monkey on my back was big. But I was able to make that choice to get help and to make it and to eventually get sober. And now I do have a lot more choice. And I choose not to drink. And I do choose to better my life as well. And the steps do go they help me go in a good direction. And for, you know, what I take out of the steps, they help me go in the right direction. That helps a lot. And it does make life better when I start to make those decisions to not let those defects of character get big in my life and me start to have a negative effect on other people and myself. It helps a lot.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's about it for this week. What's our step next week?
Step 8.
Step 8. All right, well, what is step 8?
Made a list of people that we're going to make amends to.
All right, so making a list of people that we need to make amends to or apologize to or live a different way. And one thing I will say about amends is it's better to live in amend,
To make a living amends?
Yes, than it is to just go around saying you're sorry and not be different.
Right.
So, with that said, go check out TalkSober.com. Get yourself signed up. Help us out. Support the channel. Get all kinds of tools to help you get and stay sober. I think it'll really help you understand the mindset of what has been working for myself and Terry for the last combined 16 years of sobriety, and really get you to the nitty-gritty of how the mind works and how to stay sober. So, TalkSober.com. detox.com. Smash the like button, subscribe, go on over there, check out the stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.